Hi guys, Kelly from Truish Fabrics here, and today we are going to be doing a quick tutorial on how to make fabric napkins, reusable napkins. So here's one that I completed earlier. They are so quick and easy, perfect for beginners, and this size folds up really nicely and you can pop it in your handbag, in your kids' changing bag, so you're not using waste. We're not using those napkins that you get from McDonald's that feel like sandpaper on your face. They fold up really nicely into your bag, but you can make these at any size that you want. So if you think these are a little bit too small and you prefer something that covers your lap, you can make them a little bit bigger. So I make these, they come out about 9.5 inches. I cut my fabric at 10 by 10. So we are just going to cut 2 squares of fabric in any design that you want. I've chosen a nice pink floral today. And you need to cut 2 10 by 10 squares. But again, you can make them rectangular if you want to. It's completely up to you. Now we're going to line them up together, right sides together. So you'll be looking at the wrong side of the fabric. So you can see here, that's the wrong side of the fabric, the wrong side of the fabric, and in the middle, you've got the right sides together. So we're just going to place those together. And I always pin this just to make sure it doesn't move as I'm sewing. So are you a pins person or a clips person? I use pins because I've always used pins. And it's habit now. But what about you? Let me know in the comments. Do you prefer clips? Do you think they're easier to handle your work now? Or do you still use good old-fashioned pins? So I'm just going to stick a few pins in this all the way around. I like to make sure it doesn't move. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance on my sewing machine and a straight stitch, and I'm going to use stitch length of 3. So there's my work, it's all pinned in place, you can see, and I'm going to now stitch all the way around the outside, but we're going to leave a 2-inch gap on one of the straight edges away from the corners to make sure that we can turn it inside out in a second. So let me just whiz around this. So I always reverse sew at the beginning and the end of my work. It allows me to know that those stitches are secure when I come to turning the work inside out. I don't want it all coming undone at that point. And when I get to a corner, to make sure we get nice, straight, sharp corners, always put your needle down and lift your presser foot and pivot your work underneath. It helps give a nice corner. So I'm just going to carry on working my way around here using my 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll be honest, I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for most things nowadays. Saves you having to trim them down afterwards. So again, pop your needle down, lift your presser foot and turn your work. Nearly there, promise. So that was the last corner, so I'll put my needle down and pivot. And I'm just going to go up to about 2 inches before the square started. I'm just going to reverse sew there. So hopefully you can see here that I've stitched all the way around and I've left a gap here to turn my work in a minute. So the next thing we're going to do is trim our corners. We don't want to cut the stitches, big no-no. But we do want to make sure that we're reducing the bulk on those corners. When we turn it the right way, it will make all the difference and give you some nice edges. So you can see here, all I've done is just cut across the corners without going too close to the stitches. Okay. Now, if you're using a wider seam allowance, something like a 1/2 inch seam allowance, then I would recommend pinking shears all the way around. It just removes all the bulk and makes it easier when you're sewing the next step. Okay. So using the gap, which I've lost, found it now, we are now going to turn our work the right way around. So I always go to the diagonal corner and get that and pull that through. Make sure at this point that we are poking out all the corners. I always use a chopstick, but today my chopstick appears to be missing from my sewing table. So instead I'm just going to use a crochet hook, as long as it's blunt so it doesn't go through the corners, it'll be fine. And just poke those out and make them nice and sharp. So you can see here we've now got something that's beginning to resemble a napkin, but we've still got a hole in it which we need to fix. So the next step is to press our napkin, making sure that we are folding in the gap to create a nice straight edge. So you might need to play with that a little bit. I tend to grab hold of each side and pull it straight, and it tends to fall quite naturally, but just use your iron to manipulate that gap and make sure that the fabric's folded in, and then press it all flat. So I'm just going to do that now. Make sure you get nice clean flat edges as well while you're doing it. And I always do that on both sides as well, it just helps to keep it. So I've now pressed that flat, and I've folded in my gap to the point that I now actually can't find it. There it is. And what I'm going to do is pop a pin in that gap. It just helps to hold the fabric while I'm sewing it and make sure that I know it's there, and to make sure I pay particular attention when I get to that point. So we're now going to do the same thing again. We're going to top stitch all the way around the outside, making sure that we're catching all those layers in that gap so that it doesn't open up. I tend to either increase my stitch length at this point to something like a 3.54, or use a decorative stitch, because I've got all these stitches on my machine, so why not use them? But if you want to, you can just use exactly the same stitch and just go around all the sides. So I'm not going to reverse sew at the beginning, because we're going to do that when we meet it at the end. So I'm just going to do exactly the same when I get to the corners as well. I'm just going to put the needle down, lift the presser up, press the foot up, and turn my work so that I know I'm getting nice straight corners. Two corners, going. My sewing machine seems to have developed a little bit of a rattle, which is rather annoying. But we are going towards the gap now, so I'm just going to remove that pin, make sure my work's flat, and sew straight across it. Sew down that last bit, making sure to meet up with our original stitching, and we're just going to reverse sew a couple of stitches at that point and take our work out. And here we have it. Now this is looking a lot more like a napkin, although we've got some threads hanging off there, so we just need to trim off our excess threads. If you've reverse stitched, that shouldn't be a problem, you should just be able to cut those off. Sometimes you get a few threads hanging out of the gap, so you can just trim those as well. And there you have it. Perfect fabric cotton reusable napkin that can be folded up for your handbag. You can make them into sets. You can make them in Christmas fabrics so that you can put them on your festive table. You can make Easter ones. Completely up to you. There's so many options. So I look forward to seeing pictures of all the napkins that you're making. Obviously share them with us. We've got Facebook or Instagram, find us at True Wish Fabrics. Fingers crossed that you've enjoyed this video. If so, drop us a thumbs up and maybe subscribe so that you get notifications about our future tutorials. I have written a pattern for this project as well, so I'll pop the link to that in the comments below. But any questions, you're always free to contact us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you very much and take care.